A young boy describes his strange situation, stating that the desk next to him in class belongs to an alien. The alien in question appears to be a one-eyed monster-looking being who introduces herself as Mei Uchimura in human language. She tells him to call her Uchimura. The other students look on from afar in fear and hesitation, wondering how the boy Marunouchi can be so chill around a literal alien. It turns out that Marunouchi is actually an alien maniac, and he calls his classmates idiots for being scared of a totally awesome alien. The alien suddenly turns to Marunouchi and asks him why he is so kind to her. Marunouchi means to say that he admires her life form, but words it awkwardly, stating that he likes her. Despite being an alien, Uchimura is shocked by Marunouchi's answer, wondering if he actually likes her. Suddenly, Uchimura starts moping around and states that she is living a lie. She explains that this form is not her true body and she only took on the form of a popular alien on Earth so that she would not be rejected. Marunouchi is immediately intrigued, thinking that her real form must be even more epic. His curiosity gets the better of him and he enthusiastically gets up and yells that she should come to class in her real form. Without even thinking about his words, Marunouchi exclaims that no matter what her real form looks like, he'll like her. He meant to say that he would still like her form, but again miswords his thoughts. He demands that Uchimura show up in her real form tomorrow, and she is completely enchanted by his words. The next day, a totally cute human-like alien girl shows up to class reluctantly. All the boys in class are completely awestruck at how cute her real form is and look at her in shock and admiration, but she walks straight through the class towards Marunouchi and hugs his arm, calling him darling. Everyone, including Marunouchi, is at a loss for words, but Uchimura looks at him with puppy eyes and asks if he is disappointed by her humanoid form. Marunouchi gulps nervously as Uchimura exclaims that he said he would like her no matter what she looks like. Marunouchi finally realizes that he gave her the completely wrong idea because of his bad phrasing, and she now thinks that he's in love with her. He tries to clear up the misunderstanding, stating that he meant like and not like, but it's too late now. Uchimura grabs on his shoulder and looks at him with fierce eyes, proclaiming that she won't let him escape now and threatens that if he cheats on her, she will do horrible things to the world. Marunouchi's face is going blue as he worries about the tricky predicament he has gotten himself into. Uchimura looks like a totally normal and sweet high school girl when she tells Marunouchi good morning, calling him darling. Marunouchi is not fooled by her cuteness. He hesitantly greets her back with good morning as the rest of the class looks on curiously. But Uchimura hopelessly clings to Marunouchi as he explains that she is an alien in his class who used to seem cool, but then her real form turned out to be humanoid. Not only that, but she also got unusually attached to Marunouchi. Trying to brush her off, Marunouchi confronts Uchimura, exclaiming that he must make it clear to her one more time that he thinks that love is totally stupid and he would rather be buddies with a bunch of alien dudes. All the boys in class are surprised at Marunouchi's cold refusal and begin to cry because of his wasted youth, but Marunouchi yells at them to save their pity. Uchimura seems speechless at the sudden rejection and listens quietly as Marunouchi explains that he doesn't have a good history with love. He recalls an angry girl talking down to him as he states that he isn't great with women. Suddenly, Uchimura grabs onto Marunouchi's sleeve and says that it's okay. She tells him that his words assuring her that her true form is fine saved her, and in return, she is going to help him now. She looks at him with her big shiny eyes and promises that she will show him the true power of love. Marunouchi stares at her in disbelief and asks her if her species can read minds of humans. Uchimura cheerfully admits that he is correct, and Marunouchi asks her if she was reading his mind just now, to which she also says yes. Uchimura's eyes suddenly go dark as she smiles menacingly and states that Marunouchi must not fall in love with other girls because it is a big no-no. Marunouchi wonders if she means he will be no more when she says it's a big no-no, and Uchimura, reading his mind, replies yes. Marunouchi demands that she stops reading his mind from now on, but she insists that she will only do it a bit. Marunouchi curiously asks Uchimura what the wiggling antennas on her head are. Uchimura explains that those are her spores, stating that her species are similar to mushrooms. She explains that she was shocked to hear that humans eat mushrooms, and Marunouchi wonders if this is the reason that she hid her true form. Suddenly, Uchimura's eyes light up as she states that Maytake are rather delicious, explaining that her first name, May, comes from Maytake, and Marunouchi realizes that she really likes them. Feeling intrigued, Marunouchi asks her what her spores do, and she gets up to demonstrate with an example. She notices a bully forcing one of her classmates to hand over his homework and intervenes by blowing her spores towards the bully. The spore attaches to the head of the bully, and suddenly his entire character changes. The bully suddenly starts apologizing, and Uchimura explains that she can mind control people. Marunouchi is shocked at her secret ability and exclaims that she can use that power on him to control him too. He thinks that being controlled by an alien sounds so cool and starts shaking with excitement, but Uchimura walks over to him and assures him that she wouldn't do that to him. She grabs his face and remarks that if she can't get him on her own, then what's the point? Marunouchi teases her, stating that he would like to see her try. Uchimura tries to give him a special space kiss, but he resists with all his power as his classmates cheer him on. A rumbling force suddenly causes everything in the school to shake violently, and Marunouchi realizes that it's an earthquake. He suddenly turns around to see Uchimura on the ground in her previous form. She seems totally distraught and confused, and Marunouchi calls to her to make sure she's okay. With teary eyes, she questions about the quaking of the earth, stating that her home planet does not shake like this. Marunouchi, the science nerd, explains that earthquakes are caused by the collisions of the Earth's tectonic plates, and Uchimura is shocked, exclaiming that Earth is scary. Another earthquake jolts the classroom, and Uchimura transforms again into her alien form. Marunouchi is completely unaffected by the earthquake and notices Uchimura again on the ground in distress, changed into her alien form. He asks her why she transformed, and she explains that this is her defensive form. Marunouchi thinks that Uchimura actually looks kind of cute like this and begins to fantasize about it in his head. A few days later, another earthquake rumbles as Uchimura walks towards her seat in class. Marunouchi is excited to see her transform to the cool alien form again, but she doesn't react to the quake. Marunouchi dejectedly asks her why she won't transform, and she explains that she's already used to earthquakes, so they don't trigger her defensive response anymore. Marunouchi begins sobbing helplessly at this turn of events. Uchimura sits in a completely daze, spacing out in class. Marunouchi comes to take his seat and notices Uchimura. He asks her what's wrong, and she states what's on her mind. She asks Marunouchi why Earthlings attend educational institutes like school. Marunouchi explains that it's because it helps them get into college and get a good job. Curious, Uchimura asks him if good jobs make humans happy. Uchimura explains that her species finds joy in discovering one's soulmate and asks how studying can make humans happy. Marunouchi's entire understanding of the entire world is shattered as he himself begins to ponder why he is even sitting in class right now and why we go to school. The teacher walks into a completely gloomy classroom with all the humans feeling hopeless, and Marunouchi asks the teacher what joy is. After hearing what happened, the teacher states that Uchimura does have a point, and she asks if school is pointless. The teacher explains that knowledge is eternal and many people acquire it for more choices in life, as knowledge can lead to money, love, or fame, which brings joy to many humans. He explains that to discover these paths to happiness is why humans go to school. Everyone is impressed by the teacher's answer, and Uchimura tells her darling Marunouchi that she is ready to study. Marunouchi also enthusiastically replies that he is ready too, and they should study lots and lots. Uchimura reveals her motives by stating that she will try everything to make him fall in love with her, and Marunouchi frantically yells that nobody needs to teach Uchimura anything because she really doesn't need to know. It's time for gym class, and Marunouchi proudly stands apart from the rest and thinks that although gym class is a time of agony for many people, it doesn't affect him because he got used to being the odd man out all the way back in middle school. His classmates look at him with pity, but Uchimura notices a chance to strike. She walks up to the lonesome Marunouchi and asks him if he wants to pair with her. Hey. Marunouchi is so shocked by her sudden appearance that he does a backflip and points to a nearby building, exclaiming what Uchimura is doing when the girls are in that gym playing volleyball. Uchimura makes puppy eyes and states that she was bored without her darling, so she decided to come here, but Marunouchi states that she is out of control. Having no choice, Marunouchi is forced to pair with her, and she happily says that it's time to stretch as she pushes on his back. Despite her innocent face, Uchimura is a total menace. She planned this because she knew how weak teenage boys are to a girl's touch. She leans against his back while helping him stretch, convinced that this will make him flustered and totally in love with her. But surprisingly, Marunouchi has no reaction and remains unfazed. All the other boys in the gym wonder if Marunouchi is a dude or a warrior. Suddenly, a boy accidentally kicks a ball towards Marunouchi, and Uchimura transforms into her alien form and jumps in front of it to protect Marunouchi. Amidst the chaos, Marunouchi's elbow accidentally bumps into Uchimura's alien form, and his neurons are activated. He sits motionless, staring at the ground, and Uchimura worriedly asks him where he's hurt. Marunouchi states that he just can't move for a bit, but Uchimura has had enough. She turns to the rest of the boys and angrily asks who wounded her darling Marunouchi. The rest of the boys try to calm her down and explain that he just can't stand up right now because he is already up. Marunouchi's face turns red with embarrassment, and he yells that he was just recharging his earth energy. Uchimura states that this must be what they call a human riddle and wonders what the answer is. She follows behind an embarrassed Marunouchi, asking if she can read his mind to know the answer, but he yells no. Uchimura whispers to Marunouchi during class, and he whispers back asking her what is it and stating that she isn't supposed to talk during class. Uchimura explains that she noticed something. She looks over to a boy sitting across the class, gulping down his lunch, hiding behind his textbook. She asks why he is eating during class, and Marunouchi states that he is brunching, explaining that the boy can't wait until lunch, so he is eating between breakfast and lunch because first period was gym and he is probably starving. Uchimura suddenly gets an idea. The lecture continues as Marunouchi yawns, thinking that he isn't gonna eat early, but gym made him tired too. Marunouchi suddenly feels something and realizes that Uchimura is holding his hand. He nervously asks her what she is doing, and she explains that eating your lunch early is brunch, but she can't resist her darling until lunch, so she's trying to have a little barling or breakfast darling. Marunouchi remarks that you aren't even supposed to eat during class in the first place, so she shouldn't mess around with her darling stuff either. Unbeknownst to Marunouchi, everyone else in class can hear them. The other boys feel jealous of Marunouchi, thinking that he should stop flirting in class and go blast off somewhere. Uchimura explains her past, stating that her home planet was hit by a meteor and rendered uninhabitable, which is why she moved to Earth. She explains that at first she was scared, homesick, and above all, extremely lonely. Later, as Marunouchi is walking to class, he suddenly gets attacked by a violent stray dog. Everyone around wonders how there can be a stray dog in this day and age out on streets and tell Marunouchi to get out of there. Uchimura, who was walking nearby, notices Marunouchi in trouble and immediately jumps in to save him. She yells for her darling and drops her bag, putting her hands together in a special stance and activating her secret technique, Mushroom. She shoots a laser beam out of her hands and blasts the dog away from Marunouchi. The scared dog whimpers away, and Uchimura worriedly asks Marunouchi if he is all right. Suddenly, Uchimura notices the remarks of the people around her. Someone whispers that she just shot a beam out of her hand, and someone else replies that of course she can, she's an alien. Someone else in the crowd says that shooting beams is freaky no matter what. Uchimura begins to feel insecure about her powers when suddenly she hears someone yell that was so cool. She looks up to notice an excited Marunouchi running towards her. He grabs her and asks if she just shot a beam and wonders how it works. She explains that she focuses spores in the atmosphere, and Marunouchi starts to fanboy about her powers. He yells that is super before turning around and looking at Uchimura with a huge smile as he thanks her for saving him. Uchimura becomes happy at his words and thinks to herself that he's got it completely backwards. He is the one who saved her when he told her to be herself. She smiles and states that they have liftoff. Marunouchi enthusiastically asks Uchimura if she can show him that beam move again, but she hesitates, stating that it's super tiring, but if she got a hug, then she might consider it. Marunouchi immediately turns around saying no thanks and starts walking away. Uchimura dejectedly follows after him, stating that he is such a log in the bog, and he corrects her saying that the phrase is stick in the mud. A girl in Marunouchi's class, Seitu, comes up to him and hands him some paper asking him if he can get it to Uchimura. He asks her why she's asking him, and she bluntly replies that isn't he her boyfriend. Marunouchi is shocked at her reply, and everyone else in the asks aren't they dating. Some boys make playful remarks, asking Marunouchi how far they've gone and when's the wedding. Marunouchi sits on his desk, helplessly pondering when this happened, and when they became more than a friendship. Uchimura clings onto a stressed Marunouchi, calling him darling over and over, and he thinks that romance is stupid, and he just wants to live his life with a bunch of aliens. Marunouchi is lost in his own thoughts when Uchimura suddenly grabs him by the shoulder and asks why he is ignoring her. Her eyes go blank with hate, and she accuses him of seeing another alien. Marunouchi is confused at her words and realizes that Uchimura gets lonely when he isn't with her, and so he gets an idea. Later, he walks up to Seitu and asks her if she wants to be Uchimura's friend. He reaches into his pocket, stating that in exchange for being friends with Uchimura, he will give her this. She says that money would be inappropriate, but he pulls out an alien card. Seitu states that she really doesn't need that and says that even if he hadn't asked, she was interested in getting to know Uchimura. Seitu says that at first Uchimura seemed scary, but recently, she's been waiting for a chance to talk to Uchimura. Marunouchi is overjoyed at her explanation and begins to dream of having his freedom once again. He thinks to himself that if they become friends, he will have his peace back. He enthusiastically states that it's his grand plan to make Uchimura some friends. A disappointed Seitu looks on at Marunouchi and remarks that he is so gross. Seitu and her friend approach Uchimura in class and excitedly suggest that they go to the bathroom together. Uchimura is confused at their sudden suggestion and states that she was under the impression that humans did not require assistance when relieving themselves. The two girls smile dejectedly at her cold response and turn away to discuss their course of action. Seitu wonders if Uchimura just turned them down, but her friend explains that she probably just doesn't understand. Trying to clarify things, Seitu proudly explains to Uchimura that this peculiar tradition of Japanese schools serves to bring people closer together. It seems like Uchimura gets it when she puts her hands together, but she totally misses the point by stating that this is one of humans' bathroom competitions. Seitu is taken aback by her reply and says that they don't usually call it that. Determined to be friends with Uchimura, Seitu refuses to back off and continues to explain to Uchimura that girls go to the bathroom together to talk and gossip. She explains that it is basically a ritual to strengthen bonds. Uchimura processes the explanation, and it seems like she finally understands when she yells that that sounds absolutely wonderful. Seitu is trying to do good, but she accidentally just made things very awkward for Marunouchi. Marunouchi is scared for his life in the bathroom and helplessly asks Uchimura why she is doing this to him, and she happily replies that it's a human tradition she just learned about today. Cooperative bathroom use is a ritual to strengthen bonds between people. Marunouchi confirms that it helps classmates get closer to each other, and Uchimura's eyes glow with twisted passion as she states that she only wants to get closer to her darling. Marunouchi smiles helplessly as he nods along to Uchimura's words, and he says that in that case, there's only one thing that can be done now. He takes a deep breath and screams at the top of his lungs for someone to save him. His plea for rescue echoes across the entire school, and thankfully he gets saved just in the nick of time. Uchimura's friendship mission is a failure. Uchimura is sitting in her room, happily reading through a manga. She says that this human manga is quite interesting. She is reading a romance manga, and the boy in the manga asks the girl out on a date. Uchimura's heart skips a beat as she suddenly wants to go on a date with her darling. She pictures asking him out on a date and imagines his response to be something along the lines of he can't because he has to watch an alien movie on his day off, and besides, he doesn't hang out with people anyway. Uchimura hopelessly thinks that since it's her darling Marunouchi she's talking about, it will probably not work out. Suddenly, she realizes something and begins carefully reading through the manga. Feeling helpless, Uchimura contacts Seitu, asking for advice. Seitu is shocked at the sudden approach and asks if Uchimura needs advice on how to spread her spores. She wonders why Uchimura suddenly came to her asking for advice, and Uchimura explains that Marunouchi told her that Seitu wanted to be friends with her. Annoyed, Seitu responds that Marunouchi crossed a line. Uchimura describes her predicament to Seitu, explaining that it says in the manga that at a time like this a human maiden gossips with her friends. Seitu is happy that Uchimura considers her a friend and claims that she will help her make a plan. The next day in class, Uchimura approaches Morunoshi and asks him to go to Shibuya with her on Thursday. Just as she thought, he coldly responds that he can't go because he has to see an alien movie, and just as expected, he makes a thug face and says that he never hangs out with friends anyway. But Shimura sighs in disappointment and says that this is quite regrettable. Morunoshi is surprised at how easy it was to reject her. Walking away sadly, Uchimura cleverly remarks that she wanted to learn about human culture because surely some other aliens will also come along, and when that happens, they can be ambassadors between humans and aliens. Morunoshi can't resist the tempting offer and gets up enthusiastically, saying that if she puts it that way, there's no helping it. But Shimura smiles menacingly, thinking that she got him. Seidu and her friend look on, thinking that Morunoshi is so gullible. Uchimura suggests a meetup place and glances at Seidu with a goofy smile. Seidu gives her a thumbs up and smiles back, thinking to herself that Uchimura is such a needy friend. Uchimura is ready for her first date with her darling. She looks dazzling in the outfit picked out by Seidu. She catches the eye of a couple of young men who are about to approach her to talk to her when she suddenly screams darling and starts waving at Morunoshi at a distance. Both boys are intrigued at what kind of man was able to score such an attractive alien girlfriend and look for him through the crowd. They spot a meek little schoolboy and think that he is so lame. They wonder how such an attractive-looking guy is going on a date with Uchimura. Uchimura spots Morunoshi and comments that he looks lovely, proving that love really is blind. Morunoshi tells her to follow him, and she asks him where they're going. Morunoshi explains that there's an alien museum near here, and Uchimura wonders why he wants to show aliens to an alien. She ruthlessly beams an exhibited alien statue and looks at Morunoshi with deadly eyes, exclaiming that she told him not to look at other aliens. Morunoshi nervously explains that it's just a place he likes to hang out at, but Uchimura is not backing down. She tries to remind him that this is supposed to be a date between them, but Morunoshi says that this is the first time he's hearing about that. Uchimura grabs Morunoshi and begins driving him around, explaining that they'll just have to check out the places recommended by Seitu. Morunoshi is confused and says that he thought she wanted to learn about humanity. Morunoshi finally realizes that he's been played and this is a trap. He thinks that he needs to get away immediately. Uchimura aggressively grabs onto his arm, refusing to let him get away, and says that it's all thanks to her friend that they are able to do this, such a wonderful friend she has. She tells him that she won't let him go all day, and Morunoshi realizes that his mission to get her a friend was a complete and catastrophic failure. Morunoshi can't get away this time, and it's too late to save him now from this alien abduction. The unusual date of a human boy and alien girl continues. Uchimura confesses that she really does want to learn about human culture and asks Morunoshi to teach her everything. Morunoshi is ready to take on this task and takes her to a bowling alley. He enthusiastically explains the rules of the bowling, telling her that you've used the bowling ball to knock over the pins. Confused, Uchimura asks him why they do that, and he has no idea. Trying to show her how it's done, Morunoshi rolls up his sleeves and grabs a bowling ball. He throws it down the lane with full confidence, but the ball swiftly slips off the track and falls down without hitting a single pin. Morunoshi tries to brush it off, explaining that his arms are a bit sore today and that usually he can get about 500 points. But a rather honest fellow nearby calls his bluff, explaining that the maximum points someone can get is 300 and Morunoshi has never been bowling before. Uchimura understands the rules and grabs a bowling ball, saying that she hopes she can knock down all the pins. Without holding back at all, Uchimura launches the bowling ball towards the pins with great force and completely shatters the bowling alley. Uchimura counts that she got 60 pins, so that means she got 60 points right, but Morunoshi explains that you don't go destroying the entire bowling alley and the pins from other lanes don't count. Morunoshi decides it's time he had a serious talk. He grabs Uchimura's shoulders and explains that there are many rules on Earth. He tells her that she must follow those rules and must not break them or bother people. Uchimura is impressed by Morunoshi for no reason and nods along to his advice. The two of them laugh together, lost in their own little oblivious world, and Morunoshi remarks that they should have some good law-abiding fun. Someone in a different lane hits a strike with really cool moves and Morunoshi looks over, wondering if they're a pro, but Uchimura grabs his face and turns it towards herself. She tells him that he must look at her only when they are together, calling it one of their rules. Marunouchi dejectedly asks her since when that's a rule, and she explains that she made it up just now. Suddenly, the girl bowling nearby, who was actually a professional player, screamed from the bottom of her heart that they stop messing around in her bowling alley. Moving on with their date, Marunouchi takes her to karaoke and explains that in karaoke you sing your heart out to blow off some steam. He makes a smug face and boasts that he does it by himself sometimes, and Uchimura is excited, explaining that singing was also a fun activity in her world. Marunouchi decides to go first, picking an alien song and claiming that he is good at this one. He pours his heart out, singing passionately in the mic, and Uchimura watches him with admiration and thinks that his singing is lovely. Contrarily, in the next room over, they can hear Marunouchi's singing, and it sounds so bad that they wonder if it's a sonic weapon. After finishing, Marunouchi holds up his mic proudly, and Uchimura claps happily and says that she understands what karaoke is now. She happily remarks that karaoke is a duel where one tries to injure their opponent with vocal beams. Marunouchi is disheartened by her comments and admits that it's just because he sucks at singing. He tells her that it's her turn now and hands over the mic. Uchimura calls out to a sulking Marunouchi and explains that on her planet, singing isn't about euphonia, but it's actually about emotions. The most important part of music is conveying one's emotions. She happily grabs on the mic and states that for her darling's sake, she will express her love to him through song. Marunouchi smiles contently thinking about Uchimura's words, realizing that the meaning of music being about emotions transcends worlds and light years. Before he can appreciate Uchimura's explanation for too long, she starts singing her violently aggressive song with slightly threatening undertones. She intensely sings that he may only love her and warns him against falling in love with anyone else very nicely by threatening him. Marunouchi, fearing for his life, turns away nervously and states that she is conveying a bit too much emotion. Continuing with their date, the dynamic duo makes their way to a cafe to get something to eat. Trying to seem cool, Marunouchi exclaims that he will order. He feels nervous ordering at the counter because he's never been there before but realizes that he needs to show her humanity. He politely orders a muffin, tart, coffee, and frappuccino. The lady taking her order immediately bombards him with crazy questions, asking whether he wants shot, tall, grand, or venti for those. Marunouchi wonders if those are even real words and thinks about what to say. Building up his courage, he tells himself that he can't choke up now because he needs to show Uchimura human culture. Just as he is about to reply, Uchimura steps in and clarifies that they need a tall coffee and a shot frappuccino. Marunouchi realizes that he is less articulate than a literal alien. The two of them sit down, and Uchimura happily remarks that it is tasty and stylish, stating that Earth is full of fun places. Marunouchi reluctantly confesses that this kind of place is for normies, not for guys like him. Uchimura states that she doesn't know what normie means and says that darling is just darling. Her compassionate words bring Marunouchi to tears, and Uchimura tells him he has something on his face. Marunouchi asks where on his face, and Uchimura gets up from her chair, leans closer to him, and takes it off of his cheek with a kiss. Everyone else in the cafe is taken aback by her lack of embarrassment, but Uchimura could care less. She playfully remarks that Marunouchi's muffin is tasty too. Marunouchi is speechless and tries to explain that this is not appropriate for humans. Uchimura's eyes twist with obsession as she tells him that she merely wanted to lay her claim on him. She asks him that isn't this the practice of calling dibs in human culture. Marunouchi is annoyed and explains that that's totally different and this is creepy. Later, the two lovebirds make their way to a shopping mall. Uchimura tries on a dress at the mall and steps out looking all cute and shy as she reluctantly asks Marunouchi if it looks good on her. Marunouchi loudly exclaims, "Fantastic," and Uchimura gets excited thinking he's complimenting her but realizes that he was saying that about some figurines in the store. Feeling frustrated, Uchimura shocks him with her beam as payback. Her attempt to punish Marunouchi is totally useless because he is excited to see the laser beam and unusually happy to be zapped by it. She angrily calls him a log in the bog again, and Marunouchi corrects her saying stick in the mud. She demands that he pay attention to her what she is wearing. Marunouchi casually replies that there's no need to ask for his input because she always looks cute. He says that she probably looks good in most class. Uchimura's face flushes up with excitement as she repeats his compliment and states that he wants to get married so soon. Marunouchi is unable to think of a way to respond at her absurd correlation and hopeless yells that that's not what he meant at all. Embarrassed, Uchimura zaps Marunouchi again, yelling that he shouldn't propose to her so suddenly. Marunouchi tries to explain that he wasn't proposing before he gets completely distracted by how cool her laser beam attack is. It seems that this Yandere alien has a glaring weakness of flattery. The longest date ever is coming to an end. Uchimura sincerely expresses to Marunouchi that their date was fun, but he states that he thought it was a cultural exchange, not a date. Determined to get her way, Uchimura looks at Marunouchi with her usual empty eyes and proclaims that their date was fun, pressuring him to admit that it was a date. Marunouchi decides it best to back down and reluctantly agrees with her. Nevertheless, the eventful day has ended and Marunouchi begins to leave as he waves Uchimura goodbye. Uchimura tells him to wait and stops him in the crowd. She tells him that he taught her a lot about human culture today, so she will teach him about alien culture in return as thanks. Her eyes shine with anticipation as she asks him to come with her to her ship. Marunouchi is immediately intrigued, thinking about actually being on an alien ship with alien technology, an alien cockpit, and alien substances. He is unable to contain his excitement and screams that this is the coolest thing ever, catching the eyes of some shocked onlookers. Without thinking, Marunouchi claims that he would love to come. Uchimura tells him that she will introduce him to her parents, leaving out the part about thinking to introduce him as her fiancé. Marunouchi also exclaims that he would love to meet them because he is always excited to meet new aliens. Totally oblivious to his future, just what awaits this simple-minded alien fanboy? Marunouchi follows behind Uchimura, who excitedly runs through the street. Marunouchi thinks that today Uchimura invited him to her spaceship home. He thinks that Uchimura is scary, but he can't pass up a once-in-a-lifetime, amazing offer to go on an alien spaceship. They reach their destination and Uchimura excitedly holds out her hand and exclaims that this is her spaceship. Marunouchi can't wait to lay his eyes on it as he hurries towards it only to see a totally normal Japanese house. He yells that it's just a normal house and Uchimura tells him not to be so quick to judge. She tells him to step through the gates and suddenly a flying saucer ship emerges. Uchimura explains that they have set up a cloaking device to blend in, which makes their spaceship home look like a normal house from the outside. She explains that you need to use the subspace transporter to get in. Suddenly, a beam of light coming out from the bottom of the ship pulls Marunouchi up inside it. Marunouchi is losing his mind with excitement. He can't believe he is actually inside of an alien ship. Marunouchi exclaims that this is like a dream and Uchimura explains that this is like their living room as humans call it. Marunouchi states that it seems bigger on the inside and Uchimura tells him that it uses a pocket dimension so it's larger on the inside. Marunouchi is so moved by the awesomeness of this ship that he is brought to tears. Deciding to open up, Marunouchi explains to Uchimura that ever since he was little, everyone called him an idiot for believing in aliens and spaceships. Everyone laughed at him, but today, his lifelong dream came true thanks to Uchimura. Uchimura smiles warmly, saying that if it makes him happy, then it makes her happy too. She joyfully asks if he's happy and Marunouchi excitedly yells yes. Again, she asks him isn't this the coolest thing ever and Marunouchi once again yells yes. Her eyes suddenly go crazy and she asks him if he'd like to live with her in that ship forever. Marunouchi is almost tricked into saying yes again as Uchimura starts recording his reply on her phone. Marunouchi barely avoids falling into her clever trap and tells her to stop trying to get him on the record. Uchimura gives Marunouchi a tour of her ship, showing him her room. It's full of alien technologies and artifacts, and Marunouchi tells her that this room is fantastic. Uchimura politely tells Marunouchi to take a seat and make himself at home. Marunouchi sits on the alien chair and explains that it feels so soft and nice. Its material adapts to the user's bottom. Uchimura walks over towards Marunouchi on the chair and says something in alien language. Suddenly, a food and drink pops out from inside the chair and Marunouchi starts crying in awe as Uchimura explains that the chair has a voice-activated food replicator. Marunouchi is having the best day of his life as he looks around the alien room. He points at a random device and asks Uchimura what it is. Uchimura happily explains that that's her bed, which puts the user in stasis and generates a bioregenerative field. She playfully asks him if he'd like to use it, and Marunouchi enthusiastically agrees without thinking. He lays down happily in her bed, thinking about how awesome this alien bed is. Suddenly, the bed says that he has an abnormal heart rate, and Marunouchi explains that that's just his heart beating fast with excitement. Suddenly, the machine calls him a loser, and Marunouchi tells the computer to turn that voice off. Uchimura walks over to Marunouchi and asks him if he's having fun, and he happily exclaims that this rocks. They both are laughing and enjoying together when suddenly, without warning, Uchimura starts to step in the bed with Marunouchi. She seamlessly slides in next to him, saying that it's great that he's having so much fun, but Marunouchi's smile begins to fade. Uchimura closes the bed's lid, and Marunouchi nervously asks her why she closed it. Marunouchi immediately realizes that he's been trapped once again by Uchimura and jumps out of the bed, breaking its glass lid as he makes his escape. The machine gives audio warnings, and Marunouchi exclaims that it's so loud. Marunouchi turns away from Uchimura with an exasperated expression as he scolds her for being too forward. Uchimura giggles and apologizes because she forgot that he still has to go to college, and upon hearing this, Marunouchi freaks out even more internally because she does not understand the implications of what she is saying, and also because the fact that he has to go to college still has nothing to do with it. He is just shy and awkward about it because she can't seem to be more cautious. He looks around the room and sees a PC and manga on the table and questions her about it. Uchimura tells him that she likes to enjoy creative things people have created on Earth. Excited that she seems to have a common interest, he asks her what kind of stuff she reads, and she tells him that Seiju-san recommended her a manga as she holds it up. The two of them bond over their common interests, and Marunouchi suddenly pauses when he finally realizes how weird it is that they are having a normal conversation. Uchimura cuts his train of thought, and with a coy expression, she tells him that she has also been trying something creative, and she wants to show them to him. Marunouchi notices her being shy, but excitedly tells her that he would be more than happy to check out her stuff, thinking that she must be talking about manga or games or any kind of art. He wonders what kind of art an alien would do and how cool it would be. Uchimura opens up her computer and opens an audio software. He gets excited that she must be interested in being a musician. But his enthusiasm soon ends when she tells him that she has been secretly recording his voice as she plays the audio file. The audio file has Marunouchi agreeing when she asks him if he would spend his life with her. She edited the audio file in such a way after all, even though they never had such a conversation and he never ever even agreed to something like that. She looks super proud of her work, and he dismisses the entire thing as he screams that the audio file is a hoax. He never said such things and never agreed to them. Aether Uchimura calls out to him with her signature loving pose and tone, and she tells him that her parents came back, so she wants to introduce him to her parents. Marunouchi, upon hearing this, gets excited because this means that he gets to see even more aliens. He excitedly tells her that he would love to meet them. She takes him to the place they are staying at and sees two jellyfish-like figures sitting in the living room while watching the TV. One of them turns to him saying that she is Uchimura's mother, and the other figure also turns to him to say that he is the father. He thanks Marunouchi for looking after his daughter. Marunouchi yells out how fantastic it is to meet other aliens, and he is totally stoked out upon meeting the two of them. Uchimura introduces him as her fiancé, and Marunouchi quickly cuts her off as he says that he is her friend. There is a pause when she is about to say fiancé again, but he again cuts her off and says that they are friends. Uchimura zaps him and says that he is her fiancé, and this time he is sadly unable to say otherwise. As he lays there on the ground looking lifeless, she plays the audio file that she recorded, or rather manipulated, as she screams happily that he even confessed his love for her passionately. Her father laughs as he says that Marunouchi is quite enthusiastic, but Marunouchi, unable to deny any allegations, just wants to yell that the voice recording is a hoax. Her mother nods as she says that she is glad that Uchimura found someone so passionate that loves her because she was worried about her adjusting to Earth life, but now she has nothing to worry about. Her father also adds that even though he is sad about her little girl, but he will still do his best to support his daughter no matter what. Observing everything, Marunouchi realizes he has no say whatsoever in this conversation. He grunts as he thinks that he needs a way to get out of this situation. He can't just leave her on her own account. His dream is to hang out with a bunch of cool scary aliens. But at this rate, he'll only be able to hang out with Uchimura. He can't do both that and romance. He must make his feelings clear. With determination, he turns around to give them a piece of his mind as her father calls out his name and asks him if he would like to give piloting the spaceship as a sign of gratitude. With tears in his eyes out of happiness, Marunouchi yells out he would in fact like to run the spaceship. Even since he was a kid, Marunouchi always believed that in this vast universe, there must definitely be aliens. No matter how many times he was made fun of for thinking that way, and no matter how much he got bullied for it, he still believed that it was true and he always wanted to meet them. He was a child that was fascinated by extraterrestrial life. And now, he is in space. He is living his childhood dream right now. As he pilots the spaceship, he thinks about how he wants to show this moment to his younger self. He never would have imagined as a kid that his dreams would come true this way. It was all because of Uchimura. She was the reason he got to meet aliens, and now he is even driving and piloting a spaceship in space. Uchimura's father guides him and explains to him how he can adjust the altitude and even compliments him for doing so well. Behind him, he can hear Uchimura and her mother talking about something disturbing. Uchimura explains to her mother that after she gets a stable job when she graduates college, they plan to have a child. This must definitely be the disturbing thing that was making Marunouchi uncomfortable. Uchimura approaches Marunouchi and asks him while blushing if he wants a boy or a girl for their first child. He tries to ignore her absurd question because he really doesn't even want a child. But she keeps calling out to him to answer her question, and he keeps ignoring her as he thinks of a plan. He calls out to her and starts to yell that he is trying to drive right now. She should let him concentrate. What if he messes up and makes a mistake while driving and they crash into a space rock? Through this way, she would just leave him alone, right? Uchimura has a menacing look on her face as she says in creepy tone that if he does not answer her right this moment, she will not give him a drive home. Admitting defeat, he kneels to say that he would like to have a girl first and a boy second in a defeated tone because this is so unfair for him. Uchimura giggles happily and says that she also thinks a girl first would be nice for them even though he got to experience riding a spaceship, just he had dreamed ever since his childhood. The price to fulfill that dream was a pretty hefty one. Papamura calls out to Marunouchi and says that he wants to have a talk with him, and he tells him that he took a look at his thoughts and found out that he was not actually close to his daughter. Marunouchi panics because he forgot that Uchimura's family can read other people's minds. What if Papamura is angry with him now after finding out everything? Papamura just apologizes to him because he realized that Marunouchi just wanted to meet and become friends with aliens. That was what he saw in his heart after all. As an alien on Earth, they are considered outsiders and fear, suspicion, and worry is always surrounded in public, and that is why it gets lonely to be surrounded by people with such concerns. That is why he was really happy when he met someone like Marunouchi who just wanted to be friendly with aliens. He thanks him and asks him to continue getting along with his daughter as he extends his arm forward for a handshake. Marunouchi is surprised at the words of Papamura, but smiles knowingly and goes in for the handshake as well. He thinks it is amazing that such a friendship can exist between two different species. Papamura smiles while shaking hands and says that even if they are on good terms, if Marunouchi makes his daughter cry under any circumstances, it will be the end of him. Marunouchi pauses as he has a pained smile on his face. They decide to go back home, and Uchimura says that they will see each other at school and invites Marunouchi to come over her place and play whenever he wants. She turns back to ask him what he and her father talked about, and Marunouchi panics as he says that it was nothing serious. Uchimura nods and says that it must be the kind of stuff that stays between men. She should not be nosy about such things. She turns around while giggling, and with a coy expression, she tells him that slowly but surely, she is making progress, so now all she has left to do is make him fall head over heels for her. She warns him to prepare herself for the future. Marunouchi, while flustered, yells that no one prepares for something like that. He still wants to get along with a lot of aliens. When Uchimura hears this, she has a serious smile on her face as she says menacingly that if that is how he is going to be, then she will have to punish him. Sounds of taser zaps are heard as the night comes to an end. One of their classmates comes up to Marunouchi, and with a smirk on her face, she teases him as she asks if what she heard was really true, and he went to Uchimura's place. She asks him how it was like. and he tells her that Uchimura had recorded him on her phone and tried to get him to promise some things that he did not want to happen. He asks if she was the one who gave any sort of ideas to Uchimura. The girl looks flustered and looks away to avoid eye contact and plays it off by saying that she does not know, and it's a wonder for her as well that Uchimura would do such a thing, obviously acting very suspicious. Marunouchi holds his breath as he marvels about how amazing the spaceship was, but the method Uchimura has been using recently have been becoming more and more threatening and scary, just like a horror film. The girl tells him that he is a bit of a pushover, so that also plays a part. There is no need to care about such things. After all, Uchimura is a good girl, and even though she has her flaws, she cares about him, so he should not have any problem with actually pursuing her. Marunouchi pauses a bit as he considers and sighs while looking away. He thinks of romance as a bunch of nonsense and a waste of time, something he has no interest in. So it really feels like he is being pushed by Uchimura every time she acts that way. He thinks that when couples first start dating, they have the honeymoon effect and they are all lovey-dovey doing cute things, but then gradually as time goes on, problems always come to the surface and that brings conflict. In the end, people start ignoring each other or start pursuing other people and eventually break up. Uchimura might love him right now and be all over him, but he has plenty of flaws. So he would rather just be friends forever because that means it's not too serious and the chances of them breaking up are also negative. The girl stands there and nods as she understands what he means, but she thinks that staying friends with someone for a reason like that will ultimately make the other person angry. Marunouchi is just making things complicated for himself and Uchimura. But she thinks that Uchimura will eventually have her way anyway, so she is not too worried. As they are about to continue their conversation, Uchimura runs over to Marunouchi as she tells him that she found a magazine about weddings. She asks him if he would like a Western-style wedding with a serious and grim look on her face, almost threatening him to pick what she wants. After all, she wants to have a white dress. Marunouchi turns to the girl and looks at her with a serious expression and says that Uchimura is simply scary. Marunouchi has been getting attacked by Uchimura more than ever recently. She comes up to him with a coy and a shy expression on her face as she asks him if he wants to try out after-school dates. If he is going to the game center, then she also wants to go along with him. This must be a full-force attack of hers. After all, she did tell him to prepare himself for the future because she is going to go head first into making him fall in love with her. Uchimura yanks his arm away from her grasp as he tells her that she should go with Seitu once in a while and not always stick to him. This leaves Uchimura surprised and baffled at the way he reacted. With a gloomy expression, she says that he was going to teach her about Earth's culture. Seeing her gloomy expression, his composure is lost, and he admits defeat as he says that he will take her. Uchimura, with yet another win, throws a peace sign as she walks away in victory. When they arrive at the game center, Uchimura marvels at how many games are available and how fun they look like to play. She says that games like such or even game centers on Earth are not on her planet. Even though they have technology, they do not have games because they are focused on the development of medical and quantum physics, so they don't really have much entertainment. She comes across a claw machine and questions how it works. Seeing cute plushies inside, she exclaims that she wants one. Marunouchi tells her that the one she has eyes for is not that popular, so she tells him that the plushie looks kind of like him.
Hey!
She extends her arm inside the claw machine and asks if you can just take it. Surprised, Marunouchi tells her that she is breaking the rule even though her method is quite epic. He shows her how she can get the plushie and runs the claw machine by moving the crane over the plushie and grab it to bring it to the exit hole. He gets the plushie on his first try as expected of a true gamer. And totally not because the arm was super strong and the seller just wanted to get rid of it. He gives the plushie to Uchimura, who is flustered at first because she did not expect him to give it to her. She thanks him as she looks at the plushie in a daze. They decide that since they are already at the game center, they should at least have some fun. As they walk back home, Uchimura expresses how fun game centers are. They have all sorts of games. She definitely has more fun on Earth. And she even got a present from Marunouchi, so she'll be sure to think of him whenever she sees that plushie. It is her most prized treasure after all. Flustered, Marunouchi looks away as he tells her that she is making a big deal out of nothing. But when he looks at her again, she has a grim look on her face as she whispers that she will practice with the plushie for their marriage. Marunouchi thinks it might be best if she gives the plushie back to him after all. Shh. They are at the library, and Morunochi whispers to Uchimura as says that library is a place for reading the books quietly and hushes her to keep her voice down. Uchimura obeys him attentively and walks around while looking at books. She marvels at how many different kinds of books there are as one soon catches her eyes. She picks it out and opens it, and Morunochi is happy to observe an alien experiencing Earth's culture. It is truly a fantastic sight indeed. After some time has passed, Uchimura comes up to him and he turns around and asks if she is struggling to read something. But when he turns around to face her, she locks him in place using her hand and leans in. Morunochi panics and asks her what she is doing as he tries to push her away. She shushes him using her finger as she whispers to him that he has to be quiet in the library. He closes her eyes as he thinks she is going to kiss him. She had to resort to such methods to get him to like her. But Chimura just brushes her face against his. This confuses him. She explains that according to the book she was reading just now, brushing your eyelashes on another person is called a butterfly kiss. Of course, people on Earth really know how to express their love. She stands up to go check out other books that she wants to learn from. She turns around and asks if he was expecting it to be a kiss on the lips instead. She tells him if that is what he wants, then he has to be the one to initiate such a thing. Morunochi is dumbfounded as he bangs his head on the table while yelling about someone putting those kind of books in the library. The librarian tells him to shut up as Uchimura goes up to him to rent out the books in her hands. Morunochi sits on the ground in the sports field waiting for Uchimura, who has said yesterday to him not to bring a lunchbox today. He sits there wondering what she meant by that. He notices Uchimura show up and she thanks him for waiting for him and holds up a bento box in her hand, telling him that she made his lunch today. Morunochi thanks her as he takes the bento and opens it up while thinking she must have been studying human food, so she made some for him to try if she did it right or not. He can't refuse such a request after all. When he opens it up, he sees nothing he has seen before. He asks what was in the lunch, and she tells him that it is galaxy rice with deep-fried space chicken and all kinds of other things. She thought that he would for sure prefer space food rather than the Earth food he always eats. He cries tears of happiness as he thinks she totally got him this time. He can say no, but why would he? When he gets to eat such exotic food like he always wanted. He takes a bite and screams out how good it tastes. She says that it tastes so good because she put in a special ingredient. He looks at her while chewing and asks if she put in some sort of space spice, and she gives him a soft smile as she holds out her hands to create heart and says the special ingredient she used is lowy. He pauses while eating and gobbles down nonetheless as he says that feelings are nothing more than electrochemical signals sent to your brain, so love cannot be scientifically a special ingredient, or rather an ingredient at all. She tells him other things she used for cooking as he smiles with his mouth full of food that she did in fact put other ingredients. He asks him what other ingredients she used, and she says he does not need to worry about that. Seeing her expression makes him uneasy as he stops eating and asks her again to tell him because now he is worried if she put in something weird that he should not be eating. Uchimura giggles creepily and says nothing else. The wind rustles the leaves on tree as both Morunochi and Uchimura are on the sports field after lunch. Uchimura seems to have fallen asleep while she was using her phone. She rests her head on Morunochi's shoulder, and he sighs as he wonders if she woke up really early just to make his lunch for him. Feeling like it is his responsibility to lend her a shoulder if she really did make his lunch by sacrificing her sleep. Uchimura mumbles his name while in her sleep and whispers that she loves him forever and ever. This makes Morunochi's heart skip a beat, and he has a flustered and surprised look at the same time on his face. He gulps as he looks away and grits his teeth as he reminds himself that love is just nonsense. It's not something he has any interest in. The only thing he has interest in is to just be friends with a bunch of aliens, and especially aliens with all sorts of weird and fantastic forms at the same time. Nothing good comes out of falling in love. That is what his childhood has taught him. It is better to be friends with aliens and not fall in love with them. But even though that is how he feels, in spite of that he also cannot seem to hide his feelings for Uchimura. He reaches out his hand hesitantly and pats her head as he says out loud that he also does not dislike her. But Uchimura, all of a sudden, springs to her feet and smirks as she gloats about how it is just a matter of time until he falls in love with him. She holds her phone in her hand, seemingly showing that what he did just now was recorded by her. Morunochi has a defeated look on his face, and he says that he will definitely not lose to her tactics. She giggles and says that she will also definitely win no matter what. Uchimura sticks to Marunouchi and wishes him good morning. As usual, he tells her not to cling to him, and as usual, everyone around them thinks they are being as flirtatious as ever. Marunouchi hears a click sound near his ear and freezes up. Everyone around them start murmur as the person holding him on freeze tells him to away from Uchimura or else she will end him. The person seems to be Kimaji when he turns around. He asks if what she is holding is a toy, but she smirks and tells him that it is real. She is an elite alien and she has been waiting for an opportunity to invade Earth. He holds his hands up and is at awe of how fantastic and cool Kimaji sounds. He wonders if the aliens have finally made a move because invading Earth is not a peaceful or easy task at all. She lowers her guard and says that she can't invade Earth anymore. He hesitantly asks her why she can't do so anymore, and she gets angry and says that it is his fault. It is because he proposed to her so passionately. And he yells out that he never did such a thing. She comes closer to him and says that even so he did, that he has been flirting with Uchimura all this time. She is beyond mad at this point. He tries to tell her to wait because he never promised such a thing and he is not flirting with anyone. She is totally misunderstanding something here. She yells at him and asks if anyone is fine as long as they are an alien. Everyone around them whispers nasty stuff about him, and he turns to tell them to shut up for a bit because he has to figure out how to get out this situation. He shivers as he feels something cold touch his neck. He slowly turns around to see who it is as he feels a menacing aura behind him and sees Uchimura with a death gaze in her eyes ready to throw hands if need arises. On the third day of the school, Kimaji slams into some girls and falls down. The girls seem to ignore her and walk past her as they talk at she if the one who got a perfect score on the entrance exam and talk about how big her ego is and how arrogant she is. Kimaji sighs and picks up her fallen printouts and thinks how she is finished with her investigations, she will do her best to invade them. Her train of thought is cut off by someone's hand handing out her handkerchief to her. She gets flustered as she sees it is Marunouchi that is helping her out, and she gets defensive and asks him what he is doing all of a sudden. He stands up and introduces himself and says he can't leave a fellow loner like him alone. She gets offended at him for calling her a loner. He says that getting the top score on the entrance exam is amazing, but he is not interested in anything other than aliens, so he is going to root for her as a fellow loner. He encourages her not to lose to losers that are other people who look down on losers like him. He holds her hand and shakes it enthusiastically. Kimaji blushes at him being too forward with her. Marunouchi in the present asks where the proposal was in that scenario just now, and Kimaji exclaims that picking up her handkerchief and giving it to her is the same as a love proposal. Marunouchi is surprised by the culture shock as Kimaji goes on to say that he held on to it with both of his hands and told her such kind of soft words, and that on her planet it would be considered a hot and passionate proposal. Marunouchi grabs his head, ready to pull out his hair at the absurdity of this situation he is in. Kimaji blames him that he moved on to cheat on her and that she already told her mother planet that she got proposed so they can't invade Earth. If he does not marry her, she will get prosecuted with a maximum penalty for reporting fraudulent information. She asks him to take responsibility for her with a serious and heavy expression on her face. Marunouchi turns around to say that it is all a misunderstanding and tries to explain to others. But when he turns around, he sees that there is no one in the class. He looks around the room and only sees a howling, menacing figure, which seems to be Uchimura, who is steaming with anger. The teacher enters the class with a jolly mood and immediately is faced with a battlefield going on in the classroom. Desks scattered away, students nowhere to be seen, only 3 figures cowering in the room either defensively or offensively. Upon seeing the teacher, Marunouchi runs towards him, wailing about his arms, trying to explain the situation to him. The teacher nods and says that he understands what is happening. Kimaji exclaims that it is shameful for someone like her, who is an elite alien, to be cheated on by a mere human. If Marunouchi decides to not marry her, then she will end him and accept punishment. Her comrades will soon come to invade this planet Earth. Uchimura growls in alien language in response. The teacher says that it seems like the Earth will end no matter what he tries to do to help out, so they should have a history lecture right here, right now. It's always the time for a lecture after all. All 3 of them look at the teacher dumbfounded. He turns to the board to explain that monogamy has only been established in the recent past century. During the start of Meiji era, the polygamy was practiced with a wife and concubines. In other words, it would totally be alright for both Uchimura and Kimaji to marry Marunouchi. The angry figure of Uchimura turns back to calm as she sighs and says that she can't help this situation and would feel bad with someone were to receive capital punishment just because they could not marry her beloved. After all, it does not matter how many concubines Marunouchi has, as long as she is the number one in his books, everything is fine with her. Kimaji points her finger at Uchimura, saying that an elite alien like her is above everything and everybody else is below her. There is no way she would just be a concubine, she is going to be the main wife. The one who was going to be a concubine was Uchimura, according to her. There is lightning between the two as they both try to assert their dominance over the other, while Marunouchi freaks out in the corner about how the conversation is moving forward as if the marriage is already on board, even though he never agreed to such a thing. The teacher sighs in relief as he says that the Earth is out of crisis for now, and everyone in the class sighs behind him also in relief. Marunouchi turns to him to say even though the Earth I equals lies another day, but his situation just got troublesome even more for him. Kimaji tells Marunouchi that once he becomes her husband, she will bestow upon him her true form and that he should be grateful for such an honor to witness such a thing. As an elite alien, it is really not easy to get an opportunity to see the true form of one. He holds his hand out to assure that he has still no intention whatsoever to marry her. He thinks that unlike Uchimura, it looks like Kimaji is already a human to begin with and has yet another form to transform into. He gets excited while wondering if it's going to be spooky scary like he wishes to see. Kimaji transforms into her real form and there is blinding light. When the light disappears, everyone is unable to see anything because of the smoke. Finally, after some time, Kimaji is seen, who is now much smaller and cuter. Could this be her true form? Marunouchi says that her getup is cool, but since she basically turned into a kid, the only score he can give her transformation is a 35. Kimaji threatens him that if he treats her like a kid, then he will regret it. As she throws a beam towards him, which he successfully dodges. She pouts as she explains to him that elite aliens concentrate their energy into their brains so their bodies don't grow like normal. He thinks that due to the explanation, her transformation seems pretty cool. Uchimura calls for her informant, Hashi-kun, who appears to give her some document, and she proposes that they should test out that brain of Kimaji's by taking the Tokyo University entrance exam. Marunouchi agrees that it sounds like a good idea, and Kimaji gets to work while solving such a hard test in speed of light. All of her questions turn out to be all correct, and Kimaji boasts about how something like this is nothing for her. She could solve such exams by the age of 4. Marunouchi pats her on the head and compliments her like as you would a child, and Uchimura even gives her a lollipop as a reward. Unaware of their antics, she accepts them all without any complaints. She pauses when she realizes that they are treating her like a kid and blasts her beam at them again. Kimaji faces Uchimura head-on by saying that not just her brain is elite, but her entire self is elite, so Uchimura has no chance of winning against her. She will be the main wife instead of Uchimura. Uchimura has an annoyed expression on her face as Marunouchi murmurs in the corner that he has said it before a few times, but he does not plan on marrying her at all. Uchimura points her out and says that she will not lose to someone like Kimaji. If she wants to be the main wife, then they have to have a duel so that they can decide fair and square who is going to be the main wife. Whoever wins gets to call Marunouchi by his first name. A fight to become the main wife. Uchimura vs Kimaji. The first challenge has to be craftsmanship to make a weapon out of whatever you have at hand. Kimaji works hard to tinker whatever she can find and creates a beam that throws laser at the person, and it's a quick handmade work as well. On the other hand, Uchimura smirks and thinks about showing what she has learned ever since she came onto this planet. She pulls out a doll that she has made with keeping Marunouchi in her mind. It even looks like him. It's well made, but you can't compare it with a laser beam, but she tells him to touch the doll before he says anything else. When he takes the doll in his hands, he says that it feels like a real thing. The thing she has learned is full of love. It was also pretty easy to make because she just used his skin and hair to make it, which she collected secretly without him noticing. He gets shocked by this knowledge and the doll falls out of his hand. It gets decided that this challenge is won by Kimaji. The bell rings and the teacher comes in saying that it is time for class. They decide to continue their little duel in another time. As everyone goes back to their seat, Uchimura and Marunouchi notices that Kimaji, due to her short transformation, has trouble getting on the seat, because it is too tall for her. Uchimura teases her by saying that it seems like an elite alien can't even reach the height of the chair. Marunouchi tells her not to tease Kamaji and asks Kamaji to just turn back to her human form. She says that she can't switch her form for another 12 hours because it takes a lot of energy. However, just because she is small does not mean that she is normal now. She is still an elite alien. Uchimura has a smug look on her face as she teases her further by that an elite that can't even reach her chair. Kamaji gets angry and a disastrous fight breaks out in the classroom. Marunouchi runs to save himself as he yells that women are crazy. Even though the fight itself is really cool because you don't get to see aliens fight each other every day. The teacher turns back as he tells the students to turn the page, but sees the fiasco going on behind him in the class and pauses. The rest of the students look at him as if he is asking something absurd. They get their test results back and Marunouchi has a solid 32. Kamaji asks him what happened to his scores and he tells her that right before the test there was a show Alien vs Space Shark and he watched it instead of studying. So this is the outcome of that. Kamaji says that even though he is going to become the spouse of an elite alien, he still can't don things like this. He has to focus on studying more. He must become an elite who is worthy of him. She sits him down on the table and tells him to start studying right that moment. Marunouchi also complies while sighing. After school, he goes on his way back and meets Uchimura on the way. Uchimura asks him if he wants to go to karaoke with her because he must be tired and it is important to rejuvenate after getting tired from studying. He cries tears of happiness and follows her. Kamaji sees the two and pouts while thinking that even though someone like her, who is an elite alien, helped him with his studies, he does not seem grateful at all. Kamaji turns to Seidu for advice, who is fed up that every alien comes to her to ask her for advice. Kamaji beams about how she will do her the favor of letting her offer her services to an elite alien like herself. Seidu stands up while saying that if she keeps on acting so haughty and arrogant, then she should realize that no one will like her. She dismisses their conversation by saying that she would rather not talk to her about her problems like this. First, she should focus on being more honest with herself and do some reflection. After all, this is Earth and not some other planet. Kamaji beams with anger as she is walking while murmuring that humans are low-level life forms. They cannot speak to her that way. Over planet, if you are an elite alien, you could be arrogant and everyone would find you charming. But then again, if that is the case, why did she accept Marunouchi so easily? He really can't be called an elite, and no matter how you look at him, he is really just an idiot. She recalls Seidu's words once again and thinks about what being honest with her feelings mean. The next time they get their test result again, Marunouchi seems to have failed yet again, and he shivers in fear that Kamaji is going to make his life a living hell by making him prepare hardcore for the next test. Kamaji calls his name and he cowers in fear as he says he is sorry for not getting good grades, but Kamaji just apologizes instead for working him so hard to study for the test. This surprises Marunouchi and he finally meets her eyes. Kamaji has a shy expression on her face as she tucks her hair behind her ears and says to him that even if he is not an elite, he is still a kind person and she loves him, so she will not force him to study anymore. This absolutely shocks Marunouchi and Uchimura looks at her with her mouth wide open. Marunouchi turns to her to ask why she is suddenly acting nice to him, because this is actually scarier than when she made him overwork. An angry Kamaji blows him the place with her anger yet again, and Uchimura sighs as she says that this time it was definitely Marunouchi's fault. Kamaji has been acting really nice towards Marunouchi recently, and she helps him study every now and then. She is an elite alien, so it is expected that she is intelligent. As they bond over studies, Uchimura observes the two from the classroom door with a menacing aura around her. Uchimura sits outside with Seidu in her presence as she looks defeated. She says that if Kamaji can't get married to Marunouchi, then she is going to get capital punishment, and she wouldn't have cared about her before, but ever since she heard about Earth values, she just can't stop thinking about it. If this keeps up, she will feel like Marunouchi's ribs might just bend and break anytime. She glooms about how she really does not have a choice. She will get chosen by him in her spore form, and he will give him a big hug to hypnotize him, and then make his heart hers before it is too late. Seidu flicks her forehead to bring her back to reality and tells her that she put in so much effort so that he would fall in love with her real self. If she does what she was thinking of, that she is going to waste all of her efforts, and it's fine to have different values now, but she should stay true to herself and not twist her principles. After all, she is fine as she is right now. Uchimura smiles and nods as she understands what Seidu means. She stands up and thanks Seidu for always helping her. She turns to leave as Seidu cheers for her to go for it. Uchimura runs towards Marunouchi as she thinks that she won't hesitate anymore and go for it like she always has, just like herself. She opens the door to the classroom and calls out to Marunouchi and asks him to go see the dinosaur museum together and asks him to teach her a lot of things about Earth. Marunouchi agrees and says that it was good timing that she came right now because Kamaji also just asked to go sightseeing on Earth and asks her to go together. Uchimura loses her giggly aura as she walks over to squeeze his sides really hard because after all, Uchimura will stay true and not twist her principles, but that does not go for Marunouchi's ribs. They reach the dinosaur museum and Uchimura marvels at how amazing it looks. All the dinosaurs look ferocious and scary. Marunouchi explains they were everywhere on primordial Earth. He tells them the name of every dinosaur they see and Kamaji says that she has seen similar creatures on her planet and Marunouchi is surprised to hear that. Uchimura also seems to understand which creature Kamaji is talking about and they both savor the nostalgia. Uchimura says that she remembered getting drenched because it splashes water all over her and Kamaji laughs because the same thing happened to her. The two girls chatter amongst themselves and Marunouchi notices that they completely forget that he is there. He drops to the ground while wailing in tears as he exclaims that the two of them are having an awesome conversation of cool things without him and it is making him jealous just like a kid. The two girls go up to him and try to make him feel better. Uchimura says that they should not have left him out of the conversation like that and Kamaji adds that to make amends, she will take it on herself to explain what they were talking about. She draws a picture of the creature they were talking about which looks crooked and weird and Uchimura laughs as she teases by saying that the elite alien does not really know how to draw. She doodles on her notepad as well and comes up with a similar drawing. Kamaji argues that her drawing had more artistic sense and is more accurate than Uchimura's, and Uchimura tells her that she is delusional to think so. Marunouchi tries to calm the both down by saying that he thinks both of their skills are pretty similar. They both turn to him and ask him to decide whose drawing was better, whether it's Kamaji or Uchimura. They both hold up their drawings in hand towards him and Uchimura stares into his soul as she asks if her drawing is more accurate and threatens him by saying that he knows what is going to happen if he does not choose her drawing. While Kamaji also has a scary aura about her as she tells him to choose her drawing instead. She does not need eyes that can't see the truth. Marunouchi thinks that both of them look scary as hell. He tries to get out of the situation by saying that he can't be the judge because he doesn't even know what the creature actually looks like. The two of them nod as they realize that he has a good point. Uchimura says that they should go see it if that is the case. Then he will be able to judge their drawings completely. So now they decided to go on a space trip. To verify whether Kamaji or Uchimura's drawing was more accurate, Marunouchi goes on a space vacation with them to the protostar. Uchimura is operating the ship as they warp through space and Marunouchi jumps around with excitement. Eventually, the trio reach their destination in the spaceship and land on the protostar. The girls welcome Marunouchi on the protostar and ask if it isn't the most beautiful sight. Marunouchi stands in this foreign land motionless without a word, and the girls wonder if he doesn't really have much of a reaction. They notice something running down his cheeks and realize that he's begun to cry tears of joy at this remarkable sight. She notices some kind of snail-like creature in the distance and jumps in excitement over seeing an extraterrestrial life form. He runs over towards the creatures and hugs it, rolling on the ground in tears and proclaiming that he's going to live here forever. But Uchimura gently grabs onto Marunouchi's head with dark eyes, stating that he seems to be forgetting something here. Marunouchi laughs nervously and says that they're actually here to compare the drawings. Refusing to let go of the worm-like alien, Marunouchi walks around and asks where this triceratops-like creature live. Uchimura explains that it is a small creature, so it usually hides in the forest. A dark silhouette is moving through some bushes nearby and both girls point at it immediately, claiming that that's the creature they were talking about. Marunouchi pulls out both the drawings as he looks at the creature in shock. Somehow, the creature looks just as stupid as the drawings and Marunouchi states that this is hard to decide. Both girls loom over his head menacingly, demanding to know which drawing is better and more accurate, but Marunouchi is clueless which one to pick, thinking that Kimaji's mouth drawing is more accurate to the real thing, but Uchimura's wings are more similar. Marunouchi reluctantly states that they are both pretty similar to the real creature, but they insist that he can only pick one. It seems that Marunouchi was put through a tough decision, but at least he got to witness something fantastic. Uchimura suggests they do some sightseeing since they are already here. Kimaji says that it is her turn to show them the culture of space since Marunouchi told them about the culture of Earth while Marunouchi is busy playing and enjoying his life. With that said, they three embark on the journey to check out various places on space. First, they visit the protostar, a planet which is a very popular spot and where Marunouchi witnesses abundant of nature and ecology. All the life forms here are very docile. Kimaji explains that if Marunouchi tries to damage the nature, then Administration Bureau will come after him. Uchimura takes a fruit from a tree and asks Marunouchi to hold it for a second. And soon, a bunch of aliens arrives to take action for the damage that was done. Concerned, Uchimura hesitates for a second as the aliens come close to him, but Uchimura assures him that they are used to humans so he can feed them the fruit. She explains that they used to play with humans a lot when they were kids. After spending some time with the aliens, Marunouchi is overjoyed with the amount of love he gets from them, making him consider it all as pure bliss. He embraces the aliens, calling them fantastic, making the girls jealous. So the girls grab him to take him home while Marunouchi keeps insisting on spending some more time with those aliens. He wants to play with them. Angry, Uchimura asks Marunouchi to play with them instead. Kimaji adds that he should give the love-filled empresses to them or they are going back home right now. Annoyed, Marunouchi wonders why either playing with the girls or going home are the only two options. He says that they shouldn't underestimate humans because they abandoned what was before them, took a brand new step, and chose the third option. With that said, he runs away saying he is going to run away with these alien guys and give them all the love they deserve while the girls run after him like crazy and keep shouting at him to stay with them. They demand to be embraced by him too. But Marunouchi is not letting this chance slip through his finger and tries to run with the alien guys alone. However, they were soon caught and were given an earful by the Administration Bureau. When they get back home, the three reminisce over how amazing the space trip was. Uchimura suggests going back again sometime to have some fun. Just then, Kimaji asks the two not to forget about her when they go. She doesn't want to let them spend time alone without her. This makes Uchimura a little annoyed. Later, she goes to a nearby bookstore to find something so that she could win over Marunouchi. She decides to study about various things that could help her achieve her wish. With so much stress and studying, Marunouchi cannot hold back anymore. So when she encounters Marunouchi, her hands and legs turn into spaghetti, confusing Marunouchi. Concerned, he asks if she is all right. But before Uchimura could say anything, she passes out. Marunouchi quickly takes her to the infirmary. When Uchimura wakes up, Marunouchi explains that she passes out as she gets cold. He asks if she wasn't looking after her health yesterday. Marunouchi explains that she was caught up doing something all night, so she couldn't look after herself. She has a cold for the very first time in her life, making her wonder why it feels depressing. Marunouchi can understand how she is feeling since he has been through many colds in his life. Uchimura looks at Marunouchi. She leans in to hold hands with Marunouchi, and Marunouchi happily complies, making her happy. Marunouchi says sometimes she might just want some affection when she gets cold. And like that, he sits there holding hands with Uchimura and reading book calmly. She looks at Marunouchi, realizing that his kindness is the reason. She is falling in love with him more and more with time. Kimajo happens to be passing by the infirmary and unexpectedly catches Marunouchi and Uchimura holding hands inside. Annoyed, she takes a peek, wondering why is Marunouchi so kind to Uchimura just because she is feeling a bit weak. She remembers her classmates talking about how guys can't leave their girls alone when they are asking for help. She realizes this is how the men of this world think about taking care of their women. With that, she decides to use her brains and go full throttle. She wants to show Uchimura what happens when the elite gets on the stage. The next day, Uchimura and Marunouchi are getting out of the infirmary since Uchimura recovered from cold. Uchimura is also happy to be back in full strength. Just then, the two come face to face with Kimaji, covered in bandages. Concerned, Marunouchi asks Kimaji what happened to her. Kimaji explains that she got into an accident, slammed into a construction building, and then fell a manhole. Shocked, Marunouchi wonders if she was under a Rube Goldberg machine or something like that. Kimaji is happy as her plan is working properly. She made sure it would weaken her while not being mortally alarming. She did all this after proper calculations. But now, she wants Marunouchi to worry about her. She wants him to show her some kindness. Confused, Uchimura asks Marunouchi about the Rube Goldberg machine, to which he explains that it takes a simple deed or action and overly complicates it to make it as obnoxious as possible with the use of chain reactions. Still not getting what it means, Uchimura asks for more explanation. Marunouchi complies and explains with the ball. He demonstrates the ball being easy to put in a cup. But the Rube Goldberg machine would then look something like it complicated a simple action of putting a ball in a cup, making the ball take more time to go in the cup too. The two girls are left stunned at how humans can come up with weird things like the Rube Goldberg machine. Marunouchi laughs, saying as an earthling himself, he can only agree with the girls. Kimaji realizes that Marunouchi is getting off the topic and demands that he worry about her some more and beats him. However, Marunouchi thinks that Kimaji is doing just fine and doesn't need any help. Some days later, Uchimura and Marunouchi go together for some shopping. While they were there, after paying, Uchimura got some lottery tickets. Marunouchi looks around for a lottery stall to give it a try. He explains to her that she can try her luck with a ticker and win prizes by turning the wheel. As the two visit the stall owner greets them by calling them smitten pair. Annoyed, Marunouchi asks if he could be more old-fashioned. Uchimura asks Marunouchi what is a smitten pair, and she comes to hear it as well. Marunouchi thinks that the smitten pair is referring to two people who are in love. But if he explains this to Uchimura, she might create a scene. So he decides to lie and tell her that it refers to two people who don't seem to get along. Little does he know, Uchimura doesn't like being called a smitten pair, and goes after the stall owner to teach him a lesson. Worried, Marunouchi quickly stops her, asking her to calm down. He quickly realizes what he has done and tells the truth. He explains that the smitten pair is the opposite of what you just said. It means two people who get along very smoothly. Finding an opportunity to tease Marunouchi, Uchimura asks him why he gets the urge to lie to her. Panicking, Marunouchi explains that he was just embarrassed. He can't even act properly when his life is on the line. He looks at Uchimura with concern, hoping that she won't be angry with him. But he is relieved when he realizes that Uchimura is quite easy to please. With that, Marunouchi encourages Uchimura to try out the lottery ticket, thinking that he dodged her. However, to his surprise, Uchimura wins tickets to an amusement park. Happy, Uchimura lets Marunouchi that they are going on a date. Marunouchi grabs his head as he realizes he jumped right into the path of another problem. With that, Uchimura goes to the amusement park for the first time in her life with none other than Marunouchi. She finds it a very exciting place and asks Marunouchi if he has been to a location like this before. Marunouchi agrees that he has been to an amusement park before. However, he adds that that visit doesn't count since he didn't have any friends to walk around with at that time. Marunouchi explains that when they visited an amusement park for a school field trip, he was just sitting around not checking out any attractions or riding roller coasters, making Uchimura feel sad for him. So, as expected, she suggests coming here again and again in the future and make all sorts of exciting memories. While Marunouchi is busy thinking that he is here with a friend, Uchimura clarifies it. She asks him not to come here with any other alien. If they spend enough time together to make memories, he won't need the help of any other alien. This terrifies Marunouchi, stands there in silence as he thinks this doesn't seem like it is going to be an exciting memory. As the two stand in the queue for ticket, Marunouchi says he might not have checked out any of the stuff himself, but he knows what Uchimura can't miss out on when she is at an amusement park. He suggests going to the haunted house for starters. With that, the two visit the haunted house where Uchimura encounters a bunch of scary things and transforms into a typical alien state because of fear. While Marunouchi enjoys this form of Uchimura, finding it all fantastic. After coming out of the haunted house, Marunouchi thinks that if getting Uchimura scared transforms her into her alien form, then he will get to enjoy her clinging to him in her alien form. And with that, he decides to act and scares her from behind. Uchimura gets way too scared and uses her new skills to blast the area, shocking everyone around them. She instantly apologizes to Marunouchi once she realizes that he was trying to scare her and explains her panic made her use new skills. After recovering a bit, Marunouchi thinks that the haunted house experience was quite good. He wonders if there is some way to cling to her in her alien form while Uchimura stands there asking him to hurry up. He quickly realizes that a roller coaster would be a great choice. He can already imagine Uchimura clinging to him in her alien form. So he suggests checking out the roller coaster next. Uchimura finds it a bit scary, but Marunouchi ensures her that it will be fine. He suggests giving it a shot, to which Uchimura agrees. However, soon after making the decision, Marunouchi discovers two things. First, he cannot handle any of these thrill rides. And secondly, Uchimura is not turning into her alien form. After getting dizzy from the ride, Uchimura asks Marunouchi if he is trying to scare her to transform into her alien form. She says that Marunouchi is too easy to read. He got a little too excited all of a sudden, making Marunouchi realize that she was onto her. Uchimura laughs, saying because of Marunouchi's scheme, she is not going to turn into her alien form again today. She asks him not to play her like this again. The two enjoy their time together after that for a while. However, all that fun vanishes away when they hear a familiar voice saying they won't be able to go any far today. It turns out it is Kimaji. Shocked, they ask why is she here. Kimaji laughs that an elite like her sees through everything, making Marunouchi wonder that elites are on a different level. She then grabs Marunouchi, trying to push him away from Urunouchi. She demands that he should go on a date with her as well, while Uchimura tries to stop her, stating she was the first one who won the tickers. It is only fair that he stays with her. The two grab Marunouchi from each side and pull him towards them. In pain, Marunouchi tries to stop the two, stating they will tear him in half. The two girls argue, leaving him aside to see. Kimaji says that since they won't get anywhere like this, it should be better to have Marunouchi decide and choose one of them this time. With that, Uchimura asks Marunouchi who is he going to choose. Shocked, he asks where did this all come from. Uchimura says that it has to be her. She says that if Marunouchi doesn't choose her, she will blow up the whole planet. While Kimaji says that he should choose her since she is the elite. Her allies will conquer the planet faster than he can blink. Worried, Marunouchi asks why they are taking the whole planet as a hostage. Just then, he gets a plan and says he has a perfect method so that they all can be happy. He suggests that since both of them are aliens, they should check out the amusement park together and ditch them, leaving them standing there with nothing left to say. Annoyed, Uchimura thanks Kimaji for ruining her festival outing with Marunouchi. Kimaji also replies back that she was left out of this. She says today is also her first day at the amusement park. But thanks to Uchimura, it is completely ruined. The two girls get angry and look away. However, after some time, they decide to not waste the ticket and go home without doing anything. So they decide to check out other places. With that, they go to see the bunny exhibit. They enjoy their time together while watching various bunnies putting on the show. After the visit, Kimaji commented that the bunnies were quite cute. Uchimura agrees, stating it was soothing for the heart. Although it would have been even more fun if she had Marunouchi by her side. Annoyed, Kimaji says that it was supposed to be her line. And like that, once again, the two girls face in opposite directions with a visible tension in the air. Kimaji suggests trying out another thing, to which Uchimura agrees after clarifying that she wants to make the most out of her ticket. With that, the girls check out water rides and horse rides and take a bunch of pictures with the teddy bears. After enjoying the amusement park, the two go back outside where Marunouchi is waiting for them. However, as expected, they cannot accept enjoying the park with each other, so they lie, saying it was all completely and utterly boring. However, Marunouchi can see that that's not the case. The next day in classroom, the teacher explains that they are all going to do an experiment and asks the class to make teams in pairs. Uchimura quickly asks Marunouchi to pair up with her, while Kimaji says he should work with her. Freaked out, Marunouchi asks if the two are going to hold the whole world as hostage again. He suggests deciding peacefully with a game of rock, paper, scissors. However, the girls don't know anything about the game. So, Marunouchi first explains the game. He says they have to decide on a hand and then face off against their opponent. Each hand has an advantage and disadvantage over another. The two girls accept to give it a try. As a result, Kamaji wins the game. Happy, she thinks that this is her chance to get close at Marunouchi, and an elite like her won't let this chance to go to waste. With that, Muchimuri looks at them with sadness in her eyes, while Marunouchi suggests starting the experiment. She agrees and stands way too close to him. Angry, Muchimuri looks at them, ready to vanish everything because of anger. Marunouchi calls Kamaji with her name. Happy, she asks what does he want. He explains that he can't do the experiment with her like this. He politely asks her to give him some space. Uchimuri cannot stand this anymore and blows out, calling Kamaji spineless. Uchimuri asks Marunouchi what exactly is a stamp, excited to know that she has grown interest in the Earth's culture. He is happy for an intergalactic culture exchange and finds it fascinating. Marunouchi explains to Uchimura that seals and stamps are a very special part of Japanese culture. Although they were first developed during the Mesopotamian civilization roughly 7,000 years ago. Surprised, Uchimura asks if stamps have this long of a history. Marunouchi adds that stamps made their way across Egypt, Rome, through the Silk Road, and over to the US and Japan. Because of all the recent remote work and everything, production has slowed quite a bit. But he thinks it is a part of their culture that cannot be disregarded. He shares his own opinion with Uchimura. Uchimura says she wanted a stamp of her own. Marunouchi says Uchimura's name is quite an unusual name after all. He suggests having some make a stamp for her name. With that, the two visit a stamp shop where Uchimura gets to have her own stamp. She finds her new stamp beautiful. She thinks that her signature is very special now, while Marunouchi is happy to see her finding joy in Earth's culture. He asks what she is going to use the stamp for. To his surprise, Uchimura explains that she will use this stamp on her registration with Marunouchi. Shocked, he says he shouldn't have helped her. Marunouchi is busy reading a manga about Mary's phone call. He says that aliens are fantastic, but horror stuff like this is way better. Just then, his mom comes into the room and asks him to do his homework already. Marunouchi says he will do it right now. Mom says he doesn't have any friends, so he should use his time to study instead. Annoyed, Marunouchi says that this is a very horrible thing to say to her son. However, left with no choice, he gets ready to study and opens his bag. It turns out that he forgot his maths notes at school. Just then, he hears Uchimuri calling him. Shocked, he realizes that Uchimuri is sending over her spores to communicate with him via telepathy. Uchimuri explains that he left his notes under her desk. He says he was thinking about doing his homework, but without notes it is not possible. Uchimuri says she had figured he would say this. So, she will be stopping by at his house to bring him the notes. However, Marunouchi finds this idea terrible. He cannot bring himself imagining the conversation between Uchimura and his mom. What would he do if Uchimura introduces herself as his fiancée? His mom will be shocked to know this. He feels like the house of paper will quickly turn into a fully built mansion. Marunouchi suggests that Uchimuri meet at the park. Uchimuri asks if it is another special outing. However, before he can say anything, Uchimura tells him that she is already in front of his house. Marunouchi quickly runs to get to the front door. He thinks if Uchimura is already in front of his house, then he has to resort to plan B. She will ring the doorbell, he answers immediately, takes the notes, and sends her off before she can meet mom. He thinks that his idea is flawless. However, as he goes down the stairs, he sees his mom already opening the door. In short, his plan B failed. As expected, Uchimura introduces herself as Marunouchi's fiancée, shocking his mom in the process. As if this wasn't enough, Kamaji comes in too. She greets Marunouchi's mom too by calling her mother-in-law, just like Uchimura said. Annoyed, Uchimura tells Kamaji that no one invited her and her elite nonsense. As if this isn't enough, she points at Marunouchi and clarifies that she is his fiancée. Marunouchi asks Kamaji to shut up for a bit as this will make things even more confusing. Shocked, his mom looks at him with anger. She cannot believe that Marunouchi has two fiancés at the same time. He tries to explain, but it seems like it is already too late. Uchimura gives Marunouchi's mom a gift, after which she calms down. To his surprise, his mom says that it should be fine since both of them are aliens. Shocked, Marunouchi asks Uchimura what did she give to his mom? And like that, Marunouchi's mom found out about Uchimura and Kameji. His mom left, saying it is way better than him leaving the world like a complete hermit. Shocked, he asks his mom if this is how she looks at him, her son. He thinks that there is still hope. His father is a think-headed old-timer. He won't allow polygamy no matter what. With that, he tells his dad everything. After some discussion, everyone gathers up, and then his dad tells the girls he is happy to hear how much they care about Marunouchi. However, as they may know, when they are in Rome, they should do as Romans do. And they are not in space. This is Japan. And here in Japan, there will be no polygamy. Happy, Marunouchi is jumping with joy and excitement. But the two alien girls whisper a little, and then Uchimura gives the dad some gift. When he opens them up, he changes his ideas. To Marunouchi's surprise, his dad thinks that they are not isolated anymore. So they have to keep a global mindset. Confused, Marunouchi wonders just what is inside the bag. After infiltrating his house, the alien girls go back, leaving Marunouchi devastated. And just like that, Marunouchi's parents officially accepted Uchimura as their son's fiancé. Uchimura asks Marunouchi if she can visit him this Saturday. Terrified, Marunouchi thinks that his parents are not home. So he feels like something really bad might happen if he agrees. So he lies, saying he has something important to do that day. To his surprise, Uchimura calls Marunouchi's mother, making him wonder when did they exchange their phone numbers. Uchimura asks Marunouchi's mother about coming to their house this coming Saturday. The mom agrees, saying she can, as long as they don't cross limits. Meanwhile, Marunouchi stands there hoping that his mom would say no, but as expected, she didn't. Instead, she started saying weird and unnecessary things. And with that, Uchimura confirms that she will be meeting Marunouchi at his house this coming Saturday. On Saturday, Uchimura gets to see Marunouchi's room for the first time, while Marunouchi is second-guessing his decision of letting her invade his base of operations. She looks around to find a shelf filled with alien figures and finds it fascinating. However, to Marunouchi's surprise, Uchimura puts all the alien figures in a bag. Upon asking, she explains that now that Marunouchi has her, he doesn't need other aliens. Angry, he explains that the alien figures and Uchimura are completely different. He takes out all the alien figures and explains every one of them to Uchimura. For starters, he introduces a guy from the Baltan Star that appears in the Ultra Human series, and the figurine cost him 5,400 yen on release day. Right now, with the premium version, one could sell these for 28,600 yen. Next up, going from the right, they have figurines from various other planets, such as Jupiter, Venus, and even Pluto. Premium versions of these sell for 56,000 yen, 80,320 yen, and even 1 lakh, 5,400 yen, respectively. They are incredibly rare. Putting it all together, that is more than 2 lakh and 20,000 yen. He says that she was about to throw out that much money. He asks if she is prepared for the consequences. He says this is just a small portion of what he owns. He asks if she finally understands what she is about to do. He says she should never throw away someone else's belongings. Uchimura apologizes instantly for what she is about to do. For the first time, she couldn't push back against him. After that, Marunouchi leaves the leave to grab something to drink for Uchimura. Now alone, Uchimura looks around at Marunouchi's room. Just then, she stares at the bed. When Marunouchi comes back, he is shocked to see Uchimura in her slime form on his bed. He asks what was she doing just now, to which Uchimura explains that she was marking it with her scent. She made sure that her scent was all over his bed, so he would remember her whenever he headed off to sleep. Annoyed, Marunouchi takes off the blanket from the bed. He says that after how messy Uchimura made them, he will first have to wash all this. There won't be any scent left after it has gone through the laundry. Uchimura looks at Marunouchi with her bubbly eyes, but they have no effect on him, as he clearly says she can look at him like that all she wants, but he is not budging on this. Uchimura requests Marunouchi to show her his childhood pictures. She is amazed by how cute he was when he was a kid. Marunouchi laughs that he was also a loner back then. Just then, their fingers cross, making them panic and goosebumps run down their spine. Annoyed, Marunouchi doesn't like to have Uchimura be so close to him. She closes her eyes, which makes him wonder what is she up to. He wonders if she is waiting for him to make love to her. This is exactly why he doesn't want her to come here. He knew something like this might happen. However, he can't resist it. He leans in wondering if he is going to make love to her. He quickly reacts and points at diverting Ochimura's attention and jumps out of the window to save himself. However, he is grabbed back by Uchimura, making his attempt to escape fail. Marunouchi suggests watching TV in the living room and eating snacks instead of being in the bedroom. Uchimura agrees too, as she finds it comforting. With that, the two go to the living room to watch some TV. Through the news, they find out that country A has invaded country B. Marunouchi is horrified after hearing the news. However, he gets quiet when he sees Uchimura sitting there, saying it is quite odd. She says that back home, they would often compete with enemies from outer space, but they never competed amongst each other. She wonders why is it that Earthlings are always competing amongst their race. Marunouchi finds it a very complicated question, but he wishes that they would eventually reach world peace where there is no more competition. Uchimura grabs Marunouchi's hands and asks if they will always be together. Marunouchi also agrees, stating that is all that matters. Just then, Marunouchi sees a new alien from Neptune and gets excited about it, making Uchimura angry as she asks him not to look at other aliens. Marunouchi thinks that she is asking for too much for always being